You are listening to the VBAC Link podcast episode number 57. Today we have Stephanie, who is currently living in Hawaii. I'm so jealous. And her husband is in the military, in the Navy actually. Her VBAC was in a military hospital, and so I am so excited because I don't know if any of you guys know this, but I served in the Army for 5 years, and so military spouses and anything military is really dear to my heart, and so I am so excited to share Stephanie's story today. And then afterwards, we're going to talk a little bit about military healthcare and what birthing in a military hospital looks like. So before we get into that, Megan here has our review of the week.
Okay, so today we have a review from Julie P. on Facebook, and she says, as a birth doula who specializes in VBAC, I am thrilled to support the VBAC Link. It's the highlight of every Wednesday morning when I get their newest podcast. I recommend it to all of my VBAC clients. It's encouraging and educational. So thank you, Julie and Megan, for all of your efforts. And Julie, thank you. Thank you for leaving us a review. We really, really do appreciate it. We know you hear it all the time, but we love these reviews. We read every single one of them, and we always read one on the podcast. So if you haven't yet, we would love for you to stop this right now. Go to Facebook, go to Apple iTunes or Apple Podcasts, and leave a review for us. We would love to read it.
Do you know something that made my heart a little happy today? I logged into our Facebook group. If you don't know, we have a Facebook group. It's just called the VBAC Link Community. We would love to have you join it. But something that made my heart sing today is I got on our Facebook community just to see the new post there, and somebody had joined and said, I just wanted to thank my doula, and she tagged her doula, for recommending the VBAC Link because it is so exciting and I'm loving all of these podcast episodes. And she said that like in our VBAC community, which is usually where we get like questions and stories and things like that. And we don't usually see like people like brand new to the VBAC Link and just like declaring their love. And it was really exciting to me. Like it completely caught me off guard. So if you're not in our community, join the VBAC Link community and come and say hi to us and ask your questions there. There's so much support and love there for all type of birth choices. Mm-hmm. So come there, say hi, leave us a review wherever you want to. And who knows, yours might be the next one that we read on the podcast.
You are tuned in to the VBAC Link podcast with Julie Francom and Megan Heaton, VBAC moms, doulas, and educators here to help you get inspired for birth after having a C-section. Together, they have created a robust VBAC preparation course along with this uplifting podcast for women who are preparing for their VBAC. Although these episodes are VBAC specific, they encourage all expectant moms to listen and educate themselves on how to avoid a cesarean from the get-go. The purpose of this podcast is to educate and inform. It is not meant to replace advice from any other qualified medical professional. Here are your hosts, Julie and Megan.
We wanted to take a second to thank the sponsor of today's podcast episode, Leche Love Breast Milk Jewelry. If you have never heard of breast milk jewelry, you are in for a treat. We know as cesarean moms and as VBAC moms how important and special that breastfeeding journey is. Whether you breastfeed for a day or a year or 2 or 3 years even, Leche Love is here to make a special keepsake for you to remember that significant jewelry. I just got my pieces in the mail today that I had made with my friend's donor milk that fed my baby, and I am so excited with how they turned out. Make sure you head over to our Instagram page because we are going to have pictures there, a special video also of me presenting my friend with this gift. But anyways, I wanted to tell you a little bit more about Leche Love. They make it so easy for mamas to celebrate their breastfeeding journey with a beautiful piece of jewelry. They take care of all the hassle and the cost of shipping your milk to them. As soon as you place an order, they send you a collection container with a prepaid return envelope, and shipping is always free. The total amount of time from when I placed my order and then got my completed piece back was less than 2 weeks. We love Leche Love. They have a special treat for all of our listeners. Everyone can get $10 off of any of their designs at mylechelove.com by using promo code VBAC at checkout. That's $10 off any design at MyLecheLove. That's MyLecheLove.com by using the promo code VBAC at checkout. All right, here we go. Like I said before, I'm so excited. I cannot wait to hear Stephanie's story and all of the details and talk to you a little bit about what birth in a military hospital looks like. So without further ado, we are going to turn the time over to our friend Stephanie.
Hello, I'm so honored to be on your podcast today. I'm also a little bit nervous, so if I talk really fast or I stumble over my words, it's just me being nervous.
It's just you being human.
Yes.
And so it's just like I don't get to talk to grown-ups very much, so it's like, you're around kids out there, and all of a sudden you talk to grown-ups, and you're like, it's like, where's all my own? You're like, oh my gosh, it's so excited.
Yeah, it's total adult. This counts as adult interaction. We count it as adult interaction.
Absolutely.
So, my name is Stephanie, and I am married to my husband, Corey, who is in the Navy. He has been serving, and he's getting ready to retire in the next 4 years.
Oh.
And so we met, and we fell in love, and we got married, and we got pregnant right after. We knew we wanted to have kids. We got pregnant right away, and we had no problems with that. It kind of caught me off guard. We were so excited that we told everyone about it. And then in October of 2015, I had a miscarriage.
Oh.
And I never thought that would happen to me. I was a healthy person. I was an active person. I ate relatively. I was in Southern California, so I had a lot of In-N-Out burger. But
yum, cheeseburgers.
Let's just say I ate a lot more In-N-Out burger going through this. So that was really heartbreaking for both myself and my husband because we knew we really wanted to start a family. Well, shortly after, I stopped tracking anything because I was heartbroken. I was like, I don't think that we're ready to, I'm just going to let whatever happens, happens. Well, we ended up getting pregnant again right away. I was just baffled because I was like, I was still heartbroken and excited, and then there was this other thing of fear mixed in with it because, am I going to have another miscarriage? And is this going to be, I don't want to tell anyone about it except for my husband.
Yeah.
And so then we went through we started the pregnancy, and the first trimester I was on edge. I kind of stopped working out, even though I knew in the back of my head that wasn't what would create a miscarriage. I was just kind of being overly cautious, I guess you could say. And that's when I started doing research too on pregnancy and birth, and that's when I started looking into what friends did. And I remembered a friend saying that they did that Bradley method, and I was looking into it, and I was like, oh, what a great way to get my husband involved in this. And he found a lady who was actually, so my husband was based out of the Marine base in Oceanside, California, and Camp Pendleton. And so we found a lady on base, so she's a military wife, and she did these classes. So we signed up with her, and my husband was dragging him, he was just clawing at the walls not to go. Because he's like, what are you getting me involved in? And we went through the course, and this lady was amazing. She taught us everything we use now. I went in with a bunch of knowledge on what to do, what not to do, and she got to this section of the last section was oh, if you did have a C-section, here's a little tidbit on what to know. And I was like, yeah, right, that's not going to happen to me. That's someone who's not in shape, who doesn't, that's just not me. That's not going to happen, right? Well, at 40 weeks, I knew that I could go past my due date. But at 40 weeks, I was like, okay, we're here. Baby needs to come out. What's going on? So I was, talking to our Bradley coach and, what can I do to try and help induce labor? And my parents came into town, and they were staying with me. So they saw me kind of go through all of this. Well, 41 weeks came. I should say, okay, so I was going to the military hospital. And I loved going there. They did this program at that hospital up on Camp Pendleton called Centering, and it's where you get, like, they get a group of moms that are due around the same time, like in the same month. Mm-hmm. And so it's created such a great bonding time with me, with other military wives, like, that were having babies around the same time. So we would get together, like, once a month for our appointment, but it was also them, like, educating us about birth and how they do things there at the military hospital. Mm-hmm. And we created these connections, and the lady who ran it, her name, or she was military. She was in the Navy. And so it was so nice. She was a midwife in the Navy, and I was like, oh cool. This is so cool. And she was, like, such a lovely person. Like, she educated us on everything. She was down to earth, told us, like, the ins and outs. So she had mentioned that the way the labor and delivery works, that is that, like, it's kind of on a duty rotation. Mm-hmm. So if she was on duty and I happened to go into labor, I would have her. But if she wasn't on duty, I wouldn't have her to deliver with. So that kind of, I mean, it was kind of hard because I was like, I could have her, I could not. And then back to when I was almost 41 weeks, they talked about inducing me, and they went ahead and they did, like, a membrane sweep because I was over 1 centimeter dilated. So she did a membrane sweep, and she said, you know, I'm going to be on duty on Sunday if you want to come in and get induced that day. And I was like, oh my gosh, this would be awesome. Like, it would be so awesome to have her. But then I was like, I so wanted to go into labor on my own. I wanted to go in naturally. I wanted to go the natural way. And something was telling me that was not the way I was, like, although I really wanted to have her, that just wasn't going to be the way I wanted initially. And so the day came, and I was so torn. I went to church with my parents, and we prayed with this lady because I was, like, stressed out and like, didn't know what to do. And for some reason, after we prayed with this lady, I just felt like I needed to cancel my induction. So I called them, and I canceled, and it felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. I went into labor that night, and, like, early labor had started. Went through Monday, my husband went to work, and I was like, yeah, we're fine. And then Monday night, I couldn't sleep through the night. Tuesday, I was having really bad, like, back labor, and I was trying to time my contractions, but they were, like, so sporadic. Then we went in to the hospital. I was only 3 centimeters dilated, or 4 centimeters dilated, excuse me. And they said that they wanted to keep me because I was past due. So we got checked in. I told the lady that, another midwife had come in, and I was a little heartbroken because it wasn't the lady that I had been working with 9 months, like, seeing all 9 months. And so I was like, well, that's okay. Like, this will be all right. And then I told the lady that we were doing Bradley method, and then I had made a birth plan, but I was, like, going through contractions. This is my first time going through this. And they didn't even ask for my birth plan. They kind of just let us, so they strapped me to monitor the baby, and then they let me get off. I was like, I really need to stand up. I need to do something. I can't be on this bed. So they let me go get in the shower with my husband, and, like, my husband was massaging my back and running the water on there. And then they were like, okay, it was a long time. And they were like, okay, we need to get you back on the monitors. And I was like, okay. So I went back out, and they put me on the monitors, and she asked to check me. And so she checked me, and I wasn't really dilating that much. I don't really remember the numbers. But then she later on came in, and she wanted to break my water. She said this will really help pick up the pace. And I remember learning, like, I don't want that. That's like my cushion. I don't want that. Well, this lady was not. She was a civilian midwife, which is there's nothing against. Obviously, nothing against. And I didn't trust her to begin with, I think. I had some kind of bad vibes. And she came in with a tool and she wanted to break my water. I said no. And then she checked me, but I'm pretty sure she did something and broke my water. And because she said, she checked me and she was like, okay, I felt something weird. And then she's like, oh, your water's already broken. And I was like, no, I don't think so. I don't think it was. So I don't know if it was on the verge when she checked me and it just popped there, or if she had done something. But from that point on, like, my baby was posterior, so my back, like, that cushion was gone. My back, like, pain was horrible. I could not do it. And bless my husband's heart. He tried to do everything by the book with the Bourbon method. He tried to explain everything, like, you don't want that to go, remember your plan, remember what we were doing. Like, I said, no, you don't understand, I need the epidural. And he was like, no, and I went to press the call button, and he took the control from me. And I looked at him, and I, like, gave him a death stare, like, what is going on right now? And then I looked across the bed, and I saw another call button, and me and my big old pregnant self leaped across the bed, hit the call button. The lady answered, and I said, I need the epidural now. and my husband, like, I looked at my husband, and he looked at me, and he's like, you didn't want the epidural. Just remember that. And I was like, oh,
just remember that.
I know. It's like, in my head, I was like, you don't know what it feels like, so remember that. So my husband felt so defeated because he was supposed to be my coach, right, according to this method. So he felt like he had somehow failed, which he had not failed at all. He had done everything that he should have. Like, they came in with the epidural, and he held my hand. Then at that point, the lady wanted to put, like, an internal monitor on the baby, and I said no, because I remember that went in their skull, and I didn't want that. I was already uncomfortable with having a needle in my back. I hate needles. So I felt like I was kind of paralyzed in my bed. And then at that point, like, the lady and her nurse stopped coming in the room. They stopped. They only came in to check on my fluids. And that made me so sad because it made me feel like my husband went to sleep. So he was like, well, I'm done. I'm tapped out. And then my crew, like, my labor and delivery crew, pretty much, like, they're like, well, she's not doing things natural. We'll just watch the monitor. Well, I laid on one side for hours and was sleeping, and they didn't even come in and say goodbye to me. The new crew came in, and all of a sudden at 7 in the morning, I have a fever 101. They can't find the baby's heart rate. I'm like, how did this happen? And they didn't know, like, out at the front desk, or like, how did this happen? And so my husband, I had told him before they even came in to go get breakfast because he was hungry. So he wasn't even in the room, and all of a sudden all these people are swarming in my room. And I'm like, I don't have my husband here. Something's wrong with me. Something's wrong with the baby. And then my husband comes back, and at the same time he walks in, the other lady walks, like, the doctor on call, the military doctor there came in, and she was really sweet. And she was like, I'm sorry, but we need to do a C-section. We need to talk about doing a C-section because you have a fever, your baby's heart rate is going up and down, you can't keep it steady. Like, they had me, like, on all fours at one point trying to find his heart rate. Then I looked at my husband, and my husband was like, I don't know. And I was like, yeah, well, let's get the baby out. Like, we need to get him out. And so everything happened so fast. My husband was like, my husband's already awake. He was ghost white. Like, they strapped me down on the bed in the operating room. Like, my arms were strapped down. And I'm not a loud crier. I'm a silent crier. So, like, tears were flooding from my face, and no one was wiping my face, and my husband wasn't in there. And I just felt very alone. Like the doctors and stuff, like this was like an everyday thing, and they were talking. I remember them talking about their morning, like something that was going on in the morning. So I remember the anesthesiologist coming up to me and him being like, "Okay, you're going to be okay. Everything's going to be all right. I'm here for you. I'm listening to you. Anything you need, you tell me." And he was a saint. Like, he was probably the one person who was really focused on me. And my husband came in, and he was scared. He was scared for me and for our son. They got Harvey out so fast. That's my son's name. Everything happened so fast, and I remember saying, "Is he okay? Is he okay?" And they're like, "Yeah, he's right here." And they held him up, and I could see him. And Corey was like, he stood up right away, and they gave him to him, and like it was kind of in and out, and I couldn't hold him because my arms were strapped down, and I could give him a kiss. Like, they let me give him a kiss, and they took him away. And I told my husband, I was like, "You go with our son. You go with, don't worry about me. You go with our son." And he went straight with them. And so, I was in the room, and they were stitching me up, and I just remember telling him, the one thing I could remember that I learned in the Bible method is like, double stitch. You want to be double stitched. If you want to try for a VBAC, you want to be double stitched or something like that. And I just remember saying that over and over again. And then the doctor kind of looked over the curtain and was like, "Don't worry, I'm going to take care of you. You're going to get stitched up just fine." And I was like, "Okay." And then they stitched me up and they wheeled me into the recovery room. And then the recovery room, I think I scared the nurse that I was going to crawl off the table, because they were like, "You need to stay here, you're still mom." And I was like, "I need to nurse my baby. You guys don't understand." Like, at that point, I was done. I was done cooperating with anyone.
Yeah.
And it was like she asked me to lift my hips off of the table, and I lifted them up so fast. She was like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa. Well, that's really good, but easy." And I was like, "I have to see my baby now. Like, I have to nurse him now." And so they don't usually do this, but they wheeled my bed to where my son was in the other room, and they allowed me to nurse him for 20 minutes. And he latched right away, and at that point, I felt like there was an instant bond, because it was such a scary moment, scary the whole time. It was so scary that as soon as I had him in my arms and he latched, it was almost like, "Okay, Mom, you can relax. I'm okay." And at that point, I don't remember anything for the rest of the day. Like, my husband has to tell me stuff. But he was fine. He was 10 pounds 1 ounce. He was born at 8:22 in the morning. He was healthy. I was healthy. The worry of infection was not there. I think it was just the fact that it was fever and the heart rate. And at that point, while I was still in the hospital, it's so hard to move around, right? Like, after a C-section, it sucks. And there was one point where I was in the room by myself, and my baby Harvey started crying, and I couldn't reach him, and that was my breaking moment. Like, I felt like I had failed him because I couldn't reach him. I called the nurse, and they came in right away, but I was just bawling my eyes out. Like, what could I have done differently? I can't believe I asked for that epidural. That was my fault. Like, anyways, the hospital was great after that. Like, the few days I was in there, the nurses were amazing. Everything leading up to my delivery, was amazing. Like, all the story, I feel like sometimes military hospitals get a bad rap. And, they do such a great job. Like, they really do take care of military families. And I am so grateful to them. And I'm just sad that was my experience, that I had to have a C-section. But then, fast forward, so my husband also was changing duty stations on the same time. So he left 3 weeks after my son was born, and to Hawaii. And then we followed him out. He came and got us from around the end of December. We did our rounds to see our families in the mainland before we came to Hawaii. And then, because flights are just ridiculous. So we came to Hawaii, and I went to a baby expo out here, and I started already like stocking up on information for when I got pregnant again, because I knew that I was going to try for a VBAC. I knew I needed a doula. I knew I wanted to choose the hospital. So when I found out I was pregnant last year, or 2018, March 2018, I was worried. At the same time, I was really excited. And I was excited to try for my VBAC. And before I even told my husband, I called up this doula agency out here in Hawaii called Best Birth. And the lady who owns it, she's just so amazing. Like, she had all the answers to all my questions. She knew stuff about, like, just the best hospitals, the best doctors, that if I had TRICARE Prime, which is what active duty military families get, there's a difference. There's Prime and there's Standard. So Prime, you're automatically going to the military hospital, and Standard, you can choose. You'll have to pay a copay, but you can choose which hospital that accepts that TRICARE. So I got everything set up with her, and I told her I wanted a VBAC doula, and she recommended 2 doulas, and I read their background, and I did an interview with one, and her name is Fiona, and she was amazing from day one. She put all my fears to rest. My pregnancy went by great. I was sick in the first trimester, and we didn't think we were going to have a girl because my husband comes from a family of 5 boys, and they told me I would never have a girl because I was married to an American, and then all of a sudden we did a gender review, and it was a girl, and I was like,
yay!
It proved yes. And then I just through this, like, I told people that I was doing a VBAC, and they all, like, I appreciate that people were trying to keep, like, me down to earth in a way, but they, like, would say, well, healthy baby, healthy mom. And I'm like, yes, well, that's all of our goals. That's the end result we all want. But this was important to me. Like, it was important to me to be able to have my baby in my arms, not have my arms strapped down, not be able to get up and reach my baby when she cried. So I wanted to have a option of hospital, and I was on TRICARE Prime at the time, and I switched over to Standard. And I actually ended up, so the hospital in Hawaii was Tripler. That's the military hospital, and I decided that I didn't want to birth at that hospital. And from what I've heard, like, they've done a completely, like, revamp of their labor and delivery, and I just had, like, I've had friends who've delivered there and had great experiences. For me and my personal, like, I wanted to be in control of what happened, where it happened.
For sure, yeah.
So I switched over to Standard, and I picked, like, we did a tour of the hospital that I wanted to go to. I picked a VBAC doctor. My doctor was very nice. He was very, I mean, I didn't always get the warm and fuzzy because I had a big baby. My son was 10 pounds, 1 ounce, and he's like,
wow.
Sorry, you'll have a second big baby. So we just had to talk about that. And VBACs, he's like, I support VBACs, but he was also a doctor who seemed to have restrictions on that. Like, you know, like, I support VBACs, but if you go past your due date, that's not good. Or if you've had a big baby before, that's not looking too good for you. So I wasn't a fan totally of him, but I was reassured from lots of people that he was who I wanted in my corner if anything happened. And I was like, well, I'm going to have my doula there, and I believe in doula magic, so we're gonna do this.
Awesome.
Yes, I have to say the one investment like that I did that definitely pays for itself 1,000 times over is getting a doula. Like she came to our house. My husband and I had a disconnect after my son was born. We never talked about my birth. We never seemed to really like connect with each other after that birth. Like we were always really close. I just felt like I had let him down. He felt that he had let me down. And my doula came for an interview once at our house, like just to talk to us and line us up, like what we wanted. And she asked us questions about our birth with our son, and she's like, and I was like, we've never talked about it. And so it was like clearing the bad air, like my husband said things like he was afraid, he doesn't understand why I had to have a VBAC when I wanted to, when I could just have a C-section and be done, because the whole situation was scary for him, right? Like, I never even thought about it. Like, it's scary for me because I was going through it. I was the one experiencing. He was also going through it. Yeah. And I didn't even realize, like, we had never talked about it. So I never realized, like, he was also scared. And so it's just being able to talk about it before we had my daughter, like, that made me grow closer to him. And then my husband thought that a doula would be like, oh, you're going to be there. I don't have to be there at all, pretty much. Like,
sounds a lot like my husband.
Drinking coffee, like, in the old, like, he's in the waiting room until the baby's delivered. And I was like, no, that's not how it works. But and she got a good laugh out of that, too. But I was talking to her, and there was some fears, and, like, I had made a mistake of posting close to my due date that when do we think Audrey will be born? And that's my daughter's name. And there was some people who would comment on there, and they were like, so-and-so date by C-section. And it's like, people know that I was trying to go for a VBAC. And I was like, I don't know why. Yeah, it's like, that's so disheartening. And, like, I talked to my doula about it. She's like, don't listen to him. And she's like, she would say, what is it? Get away from me, Satan. Like, we don't need those bad vibes. Like, we don't just do this, like, yeah, right. Like, and then she just give me that extra, like, make me feel like Superwoman, like, stop these bad energy. Like, we don't need this. Like, and so I had a fall on the beach chasing after my son at 36 weeks because my son likes to run into the water without his floaties on, and he happened to get there and was like, looked like he was drowning. So I went into the hospital and just to get monitored, and my doctor wanted to do a size estimate ultrasound. So he did the ultrasound, and he was like, at my next appointment, he told me, yeah, baby's measuring kind of big. And I was like, in my head, like, that doesn't mean anything. Like, I was like, do the research, listen to the podcast. Like, people have big babies all the time. I'm not worried about big baby. Like,
good for you.
Yes.
So I'm a non-confrontational person. So he was like, you know what, we need to talk at my 40-week appointment. Like, I managed to stay under the radar until my 40-week appointment, and then he was like, yeah, let's schedule a C-section for 41 weeks. And my husband was in the room, and I don't know, I was like, okay, and I wasn't going to schedule it, but my husband had left before me and said something to the front desk, and they had already, like, booked the OR by the time I got out there.
Oh, my gosh.
Like, wait, what just happened?
Wow.
I'm like, I went 10 days past due with my son, and I was like, I'm expecting to go back past due with this one. So the day before I was supposed to have my scheduled C-section, I went in with a bunch of anxiety. It was like my pre-op, and I told my doctor, I was like, I don't feel comfortable with doing this. Like, I don't want to have a C-section. I want to go to at least 41 and a half weeks. And he's like, well, I'm going to be out of town, so I can do it probably on Monday, but I still think you should keep your original scheduled C-section. And I was like, no, I'm going to cancel it. And I'm like, I had asked myself that before with my doula, and I was like she pumped me up right before I went into my appointment. So I canceled the C-section. I canceled it, and that night at 1:30 in the morning, I woke up and I was like, oh, this is strange. And then I started, I stayed awake for 30 minutes. I was like, I'm starting labor. It's starting. Mm-hmm. It was like another weight had lifted off of me. I knew I didn't have to go in for my C-section the next day. It's like my body, let go of the stress.
Yay.
Like it did with my son. And so I was able to go into labor, and I slept through the night. I let my doula know, and I slept through the night. And then the next morning, I stayed at home as long as possible, but the anxiety started setting in around, I want to say 2 in the afternoon. And my doula was like, you know what, if you're starting to get anxiety, it's probably not a good idea to stay at home because that won't help your labor.
Mm-hmm.
So my husband and I, we left my son with some awesome neighbor friends. They took him right away, and I knew he was good in hands, and I didn't have to worry about him. And then we went to the hospital. My doula met us there. We walked around the hall for a while, and then I was like, okay, I'm ready to go in. I'm ready. This is good. I feel like I'm farther than I was with my son when they checked me in. So we get in there. They get me on the table. I get dressed in the robe, and they get me on the table and check me. And the nurse says that I was 2 to 3 centimeters dilated.
Oh my
and my
gosh.
heart sank.
Yeah.
I sank. My husband, bless his heart, he does not have a filter. And he said something along the lines of oh, it's Harvey all over again. And I was like, no, it is Harvey. And I don't want to ever talk bad about my son's birth. I am so blessed. I have learned so much from that birth experience. I am so thankful that everything did turn out well in the end. But I was so, my heart dropped so much that if my doula was not there, I probably would have ended up in another C-section. My doula came up to me after the nurse left. She looked me right in my eyes, and she said, this is not your son's birth. This is Audrey. This is different. We are going to do this.
No. What an amazing doula.
Strong. We're going to do this. And that right there is she reached right in my brain and pulled out what I needed. She's put this aside, put all of this aside. You are strong. You're going to do this. And so many things happened after that. The doctor that was my doctor's backup doctor came in and informed me of all the things for C-section, repeat C-section, things that could happen. So basically all the other fears of rupture and things that could happen to the baby. And then they were like, did you sign this form? And of course I look at the form and I'm like, oh no, I didn't sign this. And then it's all the things that could happen. I started reading through it. I was like, I can't read through this while I'm going in labor right now. So I just I had scribbled on everyone, get this out of my face and get this doctor out of here. I don't want to see that doctor again. In my mind, I was thinking that. And then something amazing happened, and this midwife walked in, and she came in, and I was in the bathroom. I was sitting on the floor, and we were laboring there for a little bit. And my doula looked at me, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, we got Pat." And I was like, "What?" And she's like, "We just got blessed." And I was like, "Okay, like what's going on?" Like, and so this midwife, she came to me, she checked in with me from what I can remember, and then she took both I had 2 plans, birth plans, my C-section plan, in case it happened again. I wanted them to know what I wanted and what I didn't want for my C-section. And then my birth plan for my VBAC. She sat down in a chair in my room and read through my plan. And that right there meant the world to me. That meant that she was going to do everything in her power to make what I wanted to happen. And then she came back in the bathroom and she said, "How are you feeling?" And she looked me right in my eye. She's like, "How are you feeling?" And I was like, "I'm in labor." How am I supposed to be feeling at this time? Like, I'm in a lot of pain. But anyways, she was like, "Okay, you got this." And she like patted me on the leg and she left. And then me and my husband and my doula, and we labored, and my doula made sure, like, another thing that helped me bond with my husband is I thought she would be the one in front of me the whole time. I'd be holding on to her and looking at her, and she'd be encouraging me. She made sure that my husband was the one in front of me, the one holding me, the one that I was looking at, like, and that created such a great bond between us, because my husband saw how strong I was, and I saw that I could rely on him. Like, it's like we pieced it all together. Like, we pieced it together, what we had lost in my prior birth. And so at 4:49 p.m. was when they checked me, and I was at 2 to 3 centimeters. And then at 8:16, they checked me again, and I was at 8 centimeters.
Wow.
And I was at a -2 and 80% effaced. And I was like, my doula looked at me, and she smiled so big, and my husband smiled, and we're like, we're doing this. Like, it's happening.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, because the reason why they called the nurse in there to possibly check me is because I had never felt the urge to push with my son. And I got this urge to push, and my doula was like, "Stephanie, what was that?" And I was like, "I don't know. What was that?" It's like, because it's like a grunting, like you're grunting. And so she got the nurse, and that's when we found out I was 8 centimeters dilated. So we completely, and I had like a bulging bag, and they never asked me if I wanted my water pump. They never asked me if I wanted an epidural. Like, they honored my birth wishes. And so there was, like, I kept, like, grunting, and, like, the urge to push. Like, I always thought that, like, the urge to push was in your mind, right? It's in your mind. Like, it's just like, oh, I feel like I need to push. No, your urge to push is your body is pushing.
Yes.
Control this. I remember at one point, like, I was in so much lower back pain. I had the TENS unit on my back this whole time, and that was such a, like, lifesaver. But there was so much back pain. I was, like, started thinking, and I was like, well, I could always, like, just have the C-section. I could just tell them I want a C-section. And then the thing that stopped me was my husband would be like, he would never let me live it down. Like, this whole thing of doulas and picking my hospital and doctor, he would never let me live it down. So I just kept going through. And then I had one urge to push. And I don't know why. I always wanted, like, you know how you see in the movies? It's never like how it is in the movies. When the water breaks and it's like this big explosion and water's everywhere. Well, I was like laying on the bed because I couldn't stand anymore. I was so tired, and like this urge to push came, and I got my movie water break. Like it's like my husband jumped back, and my doula kind of jumped a little, and then she ran out and got the nurse. And I was like, whoa, okay, what's going on? And then the nurse checked me again and said that I had a lip fold and that I needed to not push. And it's like they were telling, like my doula was telling me not to push. And I'm like, I'm trying not to, as I'm like, and feeling the urge, right? Like, I'm trying not to push. And then she was, like, having me do these horse flips. And then finally, like, the nurse came in one more time and was checked me and, like, said something. So she said to the nurse in the room, she said, is there a table ready? And I was like, to the other nurse. And I was like, a table, like, in my head, I was like, what are they talking about? Like, what are they not telling me? Something's wrong. Like, what's going on? And then she looked at me and she said, with the next contraction, I want you to push. And then it clicked, like,
a birthing table.
I was like, I'm doing this. I'm going to push. Like, it's happening. And then I thought, like, because right before she looked at me, I saw the doctor walk in that I did not want to see again. And then she told me that, and I was like, okay, he's here to deliver. And then I saw Pat walk in, and she was like, got in the position, and I was like, oh my gosh, she was doing this. Like, in my head, I was like dancing so much. And then, like, I was down and determined for my baby not to get stuck or, like, you know, I still have that fear of a big baby. Like, I don't want to be here forever. I probably should have taken my time with pushing, but I just followed whatever they said, how to push. Like, at that point, I was just so excited to be in the pushing phase. So I got Audrey out in 20 minutes. Like,
nice.
I tore her bad. I'm not gonna lie, I tore her pretty bad, but I got her out, and she was on my chest, and I just kept saying, oh my gosh, like I couldn't believe, like I had just done it, like this just happened. And one of the nurses came up to me and she's like, Stephanie, you did it. And I was like, oh my gosh, I did it. Like we did it. Like this is amazing. And she was 9 pounds, 1 ounce.
Wow.
She was born at 11:25 p.m.
Aww.
And I got my baby back.
Yeah.
So awesome.
Way longer than I was supposed to on this call.
No, you
were
fine.
great.
It's totally good. That is so exciting.
And I have to say, like, I encourage every mom to try. Like,
yeah.
One thing I loved after I gave birth to Audrey is I was allowed to get up. Like, I was allowed to eat. And then my husband left with my daughter to go take care of whatever they needed to take care of. And the nurse came in and she said, okay, let's go take a shower. And so she took me in the shower and she, like, helped scrub me down. Like, I was like, this is amazing. Like, oh my gosh. Like, it's just, and the healing was so much better. Oh my gosh. Like, I'm sorry. Anyways.
No, it's so good.
It's so important because it really is. It's so nice to just bounce back and get back into things, a little bit faster.
Yep.
Yes, a lot faster. I mean, I used a boppy pillow to sit on for a week, but
God, I love those boppies.
Yeah, they're multi-purpose use.
Absolutely.
That is so cool. Well, I just wanted to touch on a couple things about birth at military hospitals. It's so tricky because I've been searching for, like, do military hospital cesarean rates differ drastically from just like birth in a civilian hospital? And to be honest, it just really depends on the area that you're in, just like any other hospital. And so any military spouse that's listening that has that choice of whether or not to birth at a civilian hospital, like you did with TRICARE Standard, or doing it at a military hospital with TRICARE Prime, I think that it really just depends on the area that you're in. And so if you want to know what the cesarean rates are of the hospitals in your area, a good website to use is cesareanrates.org. O-R-G. So cesareanrates.org. And these are going to bring you cesarean rates for all the hospitals in the United States. And they're categorized by state. And I realize this is only specific to military spouses or service members that are in the United States or CONUS. If you're OCONUS, then you're probably better off birthing off base because most other countries have better cesarean rates than ours. But again, take it by your specific location. Learn about what birth in the military hospital is like, and learn what the birth outside of the hospital or outside of the military base looks like. And so take that data with you. But there's some interesting things about birth in a military hospital generally, and these are kind of shocking. So every year, about 50,000 babies are born at military hospitals. And the New York Times did a study about birth at military hospitals, and they found that babies that are born in a military hospital are twice as likely to be injured during delivery as babies born in civilian hospitals are. And I found that to be really interesting because of some data that I'm going to link to our blog, the VBAClink.com/blog. You can go there and check it out. But the interesting thing is, this is a unique thing about birthing at a military hospital, is that if you are a service member, like you are in the military, you cannot file a malpractice suit against, if you have malpractice, like against you. And every year, from 2006 to 2010, the military paid out $100 million in malpractice claims, which is really interesting because for just 50,000 births, $100 million is really a lot. And this report by the New York Times shows that probably would have been tripled if service members were allowed to file malpractice suits, because you just can't do it. So the defense secretary actually ordered a review of all the military hospitals last month about their maternity wards, just for that specific reason, because there's big issues going on. One of those malpractice claims involved a surgery where the doctor cut open the wrong part of the mother during a cesarean.
Whoa.
The wrong part. He operated on the wrong part of the mother's body. I know, and it's crazy. And military hospitals are like a really unique dynamic because every 2 to 3 years, you get reassigned to a new duty station. So there's new providers coming in, new providers going out, and they shift a lot. And so the dynamic changes a lot. And so what was the birth culture at, a certain military hospital 2 years ago is probably very different than what it is today. And so there's a really unique dynamic. And so you have some extra challenges there when you're considering whether to birth on base or off base. And so military spouses, we love you and we realize the unique challenges that you face. And let me tell you what, we honor you and we respect you, and we are so proud of you and your families because we know how hard it is, especially because most of you are probably birthing in an area where you don't have family close by and where you have to, you just said here, you moved 3 weeks after your baby was born. So, you know that you don't wait too long to make friends, and you welcome everybody in with loving arms. And so you kind of have this family community, but it has its own set of challenges. So you're going to find some unique statistics in reference to that New York Times study up on our blog, thevbaclink.com/blog. And we are so grateful to Stephanie for sharing her story with us today. And also we're so jealous because you're in Hawaii. I know you're probably like out on your lanai right now, feeling that nice cool breeze. And I'm just wish you all the best of luck.
Interested in sharing your VBAC? Head over to thevbaclink.com/share to submit your story. For information on all things VBAC, including online and in-person VBAC classes, the VBAC blog, and Julie and Megan's bios, head over to thevbaclink.com. Congratulations on starting your journey of learning and discovery with the VBAC Link.